Upyonder, back again with the Real Football Show. This episode we're going to talk about the Bundesliga, 4 games left in the season. Unlike the Premier League, where a lot of teams have different games played, every team in the Bundesliga is sitting on 30 games played, which leaves them with 4 games left. Nothing decided both at the top or at the bottom. There's no, where there's a little bit of, in the Premier League, that Man City has an advantage now, which they do. There's no, it's just really too close at the top, or in the relegation zone to say, hey, this is what's going to happen. So as we look at this, over the hard part with the Bundesliga season is going to be, you have the teams really, I guess, in danger. They have 3 teams that go down. Is Augsburg, Hoffenheim, Stuttgart, Bochum, Schalke, and Hertha Berlin. Hertha Berlin would look to be the one that you're probably not getting out of the relegation zone. They're 5 points behind Schalke, which is the team above them, with only 4 games left in the season, having only scored 22 points so far. It's probably not likely that they're going to get out. But those other teams, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how that shakes out, because Augsburg in 13th place has 31 points, and Schalke in 17th has 27. So you're only talking about a 4-point difference between 13th and 17th place. Schalke had a great win this weekend to get from 24 to 27. Still leaves them with 4 games left. They don't have any games against anyone else that's in that relegation battle, where every other team that's in the relegation battle does have at least 2 games against teams in the same part of the table. Again, that doesn't mean that Schalke or any of these, it doesn't say one way or the other who's going to stay up, who's not. But you start looking at the difference between the top of the table and the bottom of the table, and Bundesliga is a little bit different than Premier League. But it's going to be interesting. Schalke, if they can stay up, they got to move up 2 spots to 15th for safety. They're only 1 point out of that at the moment. Now, with their goal differential, they're going to have to, they're not going to reverse the goal differential. They're going to have to actually really need 2 points at least to get out, assuming nobody else gets any points. Realistically, out of the next 4 games, you're probably going to need 4 points, point a game, so 1 win, 1 draw in those 4 games to get themselves out of the relegation zone. Again, the problem for them is that they're just, they don't have, all their games are against top talent. So if they get themselves out of the relegation zone, they've earned it. They've absolutely played much better the second half of the season with their coaching change and some changes in philosophy that the new coach put in. That's going to be interesting to see just how that plays out. At the top of the table, this is the time of the season where traditionally Bayern Munich has run away and hidden from everybody else, and it's at this point there's been a lot of times in the last 10 years that Bayern Munich by this point in the season had clinched it. But right at the moment, they're only a point ahead of Dortmund, both again with 4 games left in the season. So Union Berlin is in 3rd, 6 points back. With only 4 games to go, it would be hard for either them or Freiburg, who's in 4th, potentially to make up that difference to win. But Bayern and Dortmund are absolutely going to battle for the next 4 games to see who's able to win the title. So it'll be interesting again to see how that plays out. That's a pretty heated rivalry. You're probably talking about the 2 biggest names in all of Germany right there, and it'll be interesting to see how over the next 4 games how that plays out. So you have a little bit of a battle for the European spots, but they're, so it'll be interesting to see if Red Bulls can potentially move up into the Champions League spot from the European, League spot. So again, that's kind of where I look at that. Like I said, it'll be an interesting next 2 weeks as we go through the season to see how that plays out. And then last but not least, we're going to talk a little bit about the Champions League. With only 4 games left, I don't have any notes. You have Real Madrid and Manchester City on one side, and then Inter Milan and Milan on the other. The only team of the 4 left that hasn't won the Champions League is Manchester City. Saying that, I think most people would say they're the hottest team in Europe right now. Saying that again, Real Madrid, when it comes to Champions League, their record is second to nobody. There's nobody, whether it's Bayern or it's Barcelona, Liverpool, Chelsea. Real Madrid's record in the Champions League is amazing. So you can't look past them. They've looked very good in their final win to move on. So it's going to be interesting again to see how Manchester City and Real Madrid face off with that. Probably the key here is going to be, Manchester City's pretty healthy, but I guess De Bruyne missed the game this weekend with either an injury or an illness. So whether he's back in time to play in that will have to play a role. I think Manchester City's defense this year has been much stronger as a whole. That's one of the things that's probably given them their Achilles heel. Not that they have a poor defense, but that they've allowed some goals in previous Champions League seasons at very inopportune times that cost them. So, against a side, Real Madrid, that I think they're able to play with a lot of confidence and with real, pressure, having plenty of Champions League titles, they're able to play that way. I think most people are assuming, again, you gotta be careful about assuming, that the winner of the Real Madrid Manchester City semifinal is going to win the Champions League. Milan and Inter Milan are both not having poor seasons, but not they're the Serie A is one of the few leagues where that looks like Napoli's pretty much summed up the title at this point. So they're not having the best of seasons. So it'll be interesting. Saying that, obviously, that you're talking about 2 teams that have a very, very heated rivalry and have, again, their own successes in the Champions League. So when whoever wins out of the 2 of them coming in, there's no guarantees at this point in the Champions League season. All these teams are great teams that have made it to the semifinals. So it'll be interesting to see. As a Manchester City fan, again, put that on the table. I'm just hoping that Pep, who I love as a coach, doesn't overthink too much with Real Madrid and get too creative. What he's been doing this season, and taking where he's past season he's taken one of the wing backs and inverted that into like an extra defensive midfielder. This year he's kind of flipped that script a little bit and using Stones as a center back, moving into that role. So instead of having to come from the wing into that role, the center back just fills in, and then it becomes a back 3 in their defense, and that's been working really well. The team seems to understand the kind of the different roles in that. It's worked out really well for the defense. It's been very solid. They're able to control the midfield really well. So it's going to be interesting. Again, I think personal opinion is I'd like to just see him stick with that. Again, not without getting too creative with what, hey, this is what the other team's expecting. I don't want to give them that. It's working well. No sense in doing that. It'd be nice to see Phil Foden, who had his appendix taken out, I guess it's about a month and a half ago now. He's back playing. It'd be nice to see him just to give City an extra option, either off the bench or as a starter. They have a lot of depth there to do that. But again, Real Madrid is, I watched their quarterfinal game, and their speed and everything else. It's just, you can't, even though they're not having the best season, they've made it to the semifinals, and they're always dangerous in the Champions League. So it's kind of my thoughts on that. Love to get your opinion. post, who do you think's going to win the Champions League, who's going to win the Premier League, who's going to win the Bundesliga, and let's have a lively discussion. So hopefully that's it. Again, I'm looking forward to when my son gets back from Germany in a few weeks. Have him on and potentially have some other people on to have some discussions. If there's something you'd like us to discuss, whether it's youth soccer in the U.S. and thoughts on that, whether it's the U.S. soccer coach, whether it's what's going on in the Premier League, Bundesliga, Champions League, we'd be glad to do that. We can even do a Facebook Live or Instagram Live, and so we can actually get real interaction. So I'd love to get that. So if you want to just let us know, I appreciate it. And, look forward to seeing everyone at the next episode of the Real Football Show.